Rohan Vinod Mehra, welcome to CNN News 18.
Thank you so much for having me.
Rohan, first, congratulations for giving a full-fledged, a complete, and an angry performance in Kala.
Thank you so
The
much.
show, of course, is streaming right now on Disney Plus Hotstar. I don't want to reveal too much about the show, but how fulfilling was this experience for you, and what type of feedback that you're getting?
Well, the experience was extremely fulfilling for me. I mean, it gave me a chance to play actually like an entire lifetime if you look at it. So I think for an actor, that is like, it's scary initially when you have to play a role like this, and I guess the risk factor is quite high, but I think when it works out and people are loving the performance, I think it just fulfills you completely as an actor. So, and the feedback has been very, very positive, and honestly, I'm quite overwhelmed with how much people are liking it, yeah.
And by whom? Like, who all are spoken to?
Yeah, so people in the industry, people, audiences around are dropping me, messages on Twitter, on Instagram, and ultimately once the audience, if it connects to an audience, that's the main thing you want as a performer and as an entertainer. You want to connect to people, that's the main thing.
So, what was the prep like for you beyond the material that was given to you by Bijoy? Did
Right.
you do any extra research?
Yeah, I say whichever character I play, I always try doing as much research as possible about the character, about the time the character's in, about the world the character's in. All of that, I always say do as much research as possible. Get your research done and go the extra mile to do it. However, I firmly believe as an actor that that's the characterization part of it, and that's the external reality. And once that has been established, the internal reality is where I think the real emotion, the real acting kind of happens. And I try, focusing whichever character I play, a lot on the internal reality of that character, who this person is, what they want, what's stopping them from getting what they want, what their relationships with society is, the environment is, the people around them is. So I really try working a lot of that in every character I play. And with Kala, I think it gave me this huge scope because there was so much going around in this person's life. And like I said, I'm playing a whole lifetime of his. So it was quite interesting, and it let me use my imagination a lot, which was very nice, yeah.
The series also reflects the power dynamics of India and Bangladesh. Did you read about the geopolitics of that region?
Yeah, I try to read the geopolitics of the region. I try keeping, I am quite a keen history student as well in general. So I did enjoy, that the historical significance of it in the 1971 war and everything that came along with it. Because I think the setting really tells you what's at stake over here. And if it wasn't for the setting and these forces that happened before, actually the story would never have happened. So it's so linked to history and historically of what happened.
Your character, Shubhendu Mukherjee, emotes so much of emotion through his eyes with that unkept hair and that beard. How lonely was this performance for you, Rohan?
Good question. Honestly, it's a great observation because my part of the show, I was alone. Like I felt almost like I was making another film. The closest relationship I had was with the environment I was in. So I tried keeping that, to working on that relationship. But yes, it was lonely, but I think somewhere the loneliness of it worked with the character because if you look at his arc and his journey as well, I'm sure he must have felt so lonely all those years, wrongfully being like portrayed to what he was. It must have been a very difficult and lonely journey for him. So I think it helped me, to be honest.
Did you have any apprehensions about doing this series, about your character? Because he ages in the series. He's young, and then there's a middle age, and then,
Yeah. Yeah. Me personally, I didn't really have many apprehensions. However, people around me, like who I spoke to about the character and about the show before, people close to me were saying that, are you sure you want to play an old man right now, like a character that develops that much? You're still so young, you're a fresh face in the industry. You may, get tagged into something which you're not. But I don't know, there was a voice inside me that just said that, be fearless, go for it. And when you connect so strongly with the written material and the character, I think that connection is stronger than anyone else's fear.
So then what was your biggest takeaway from Kala, from Shubhendu? I mean, how do you look at this experience and how it helped you maybe enhancing your acting skills?
The biggest takeaway is honestly, I think actually it is really that the scariest roles, the roles which actually when you read scare you, but yet you feel there's a connection over there. I think those roles really push you as an actor, and I think they tend to bring out your best work because it pushes you to a place which you're not very comfortable with. And when you're not comfortable, I think that real human side of you kind of comes out. So if you can like maybe just hold on to that and hold on to that emotion you're feeling, whatever that emotion is, like in my case it was fear of doing it, you can really surprise yourself. And it was one of the characters I really felt that like in what I've played so far in my young career, where I felt there was something that I could personally as Rohan Vinod Mehra bring to the role. Apart from the written material, apart from what was written, it was the fear, but there was also that voice saying that, you know, do this because there's something unique that you can bring to the role. So that was also quite empowering. So yeah, I would say those are the two takeaways.
So the series had many other actors, many talented actors. The one is Saurabh Sachdeva.
Yeah.
Saurabh Sachdeva is also an acting coach. How was your experience of working with Saurabh, and did you learn anything about acting, about craft while working with him?
Yeah, it was, firstly, the experience was fabulous. I'd never met him before this, and we kind of met in character. And I was in my getup, he was in his getup, and we actually ended up speaking a lot about acting, a lot about the craft. I learned just from our conversations, you know, he just like has these pearls of wisdom that I don't think he realizes he's saying, but when he says them, you learn so much. And I think one of the things we spoke a lot about was being present in a scene. So that was something I'll definitely take away from those conversations.
Yeah, you of course are Vinod Mehra's son. Would you please like to talk to us about your childhood, growing up in Kenya, and of course you went on to study in UK later.
That's right. Yeah. For me, Kenya was very much home for the longest time because I shifted there before I was a year old. I grew up with my grandparents in a very small town called Mombasa. It was like a tiny town. It's not even, I mean, it's considered a city now, but at the time it was quite a small town. I grew up as a very ordinary kid, you know, very far away from Bollywood, very far away from the film industry, very far away from maybe my father's legacy and people who knew my father. And I never really knew about him either because his friends weren't there. You know, he was from Mumbai and I was growing up in Mombasa. So so I never really thought about, you know, the industry and acting as something I wanted to do. It's only after I shifted to the UK and I started discovering there were different kind of films that were being made, different kind of filmmakers. You know, film wasn't limited to just your biggest blockbuster on Friday, which releases the Hollywood one and the Bollywood one, that it could be, even though those were great, it could be anything it wanted to be. The medium is so open and free. So when I moved to England, I really started enjoying and loving film and music more, which actually made me want to become a filmmaker, believe it or not. So I started writing, teaching myself digital photography and filmmaking. And that led me to, you know, wanting to move to India and become a director because my mom was already living over here. So, you know, I decided to move back over here and acting just happened as a result of that. Yeah.
So which of your father's film you liked the most while growing up?
I would say growing up and now Bemisal is one of my favorites. Because again, with that film, it's that, you know, my father's always, I think he had this image of a very pleasant, very nice human being, which of course he was. He was, and that's something I've learned from him. But in the film, he's actually playing a very grey character. And he does it so well that, you know, you never expect that. I just thought the casting was brilliant. And Hrishikesh Mukherjee is like, for me, is, you know, God, yeah.
You know, when you bagged your first film in 2018, was there a goal that you set for yourself that you wanted to achieve as an actor?
Yeah, a goal, I mean, there were a lot of goals, but the main one was feeling fulfilled with what I'm doing, coming off set and, you know, just really being happy that this is what I chose to do with my life and this journey I'm taking is fulfilling and is making me happy. And obviously watching something and feeling that is a different high altogether. Yeah.
Your dad, Vinod Mehra, had this very charming personality.
Right.
He actually started his career as a child actor.
That's right, yeah.
And did many credible roles. How much influence his work you think have on your acting? Maybe unconsciously you discovered similarities between, okay, I'm behaving like my dad.
No, totally. I mean, the thing is that because my relationship with him was it's a very unique relationship in the sense that I never got to meet him.
Yeah.
You know, he passed away when my mom was pregnant with me. So I grew up without understanding the concept of, let alone having a father who was an actor and to be influenced by, just the concept of having a father was quite alien to me in the sense that it's difficult to explain because it's a very, very unique story that you can't meet many people who are in this position. However, what I found interesting was growing up and watching his films. I felt I was learning more about him through his films, especially in the past 10 years since I've become a little bit older. It's seeing his choices he's making as an actor, the films he's choosing to do, the choices he's making for his character. So I think somewhere it definitely in the back of my mind subconsciously influences me, but everyone around me tells me that I'm a spitting image of him when they speak to me. So I guess it's in the genes, yeah.
So then, who are your friends who are from industry, and what most people who were your dad's friend or knew him come and tell you about your father?
Wow, the first thing they told me that he was such a gentleman. He was such a gentleman, and he was obsessed with the movies. He loved films. He loved art. He loved photography. He loved music. So when I look at it and I just take everything they've said, I have this image in my head of like a complete artist, but also a gentleman, which is very important. Yeah.
Then, who are your friends in the industry?
I grew up with not many friends from the industry. I did visit Mumbai during my summer holidays. So Harshvardhan Kapoor was a good friend of mine because his father and my father were good friends. So Harsh and I have maintained that friendship until now, and I think it's something which I really hold on to because it brings me to that whole childhood. Yeah.
Correct to say you chose the hard way when you started working in Bollywood. You decided and you actually assisted Sanjay Bansali on Bajirao Mastani. How that experience changed you, and what all you learned while working with Sanjay Leela Bansali about filmmaking?
Firstly, the fact that he took me in, to assist him. I was a 22-year-old boy from Kenya, studied in London, had these dreams of becoming a filmmaker, and here you have a genius like Mr. Bansali taking me in. I don't know what he saw, but we just seemed to get along in our first meeting together. And I'd assisted smaller directors before that. I'd written my own short films, and so for him to give me that chance was amazing. And I really consider him as my silent mentor in the sense that what he's taught me and how I've seen and taught me through the way he goes about his work and his preparation, and it's just amazing to see. He lives his life with so much passion. He does his work with so much passion, and I mean, if I can achieve anything like that in my life, it'll be incredible, yeah.
Did you meet the film cast, and how was it working on Bajirao Mastani? That stars?
So my biggest regret about the whole thing was that I wasn't able to go on set in production of it. So I was in the pre-production stage. So in terms of the script, the music, I worked for him for a few months in that stage. So I never got to meet the star cast and see what it was like on a Sanjay Leela Bansali set. However, the pre-production, which may not sound as glamorous, but it was amazing, really, to be honest with you.
So please tell us, share any story or anecdote from the music sittings or from the song recordings of Bajirao Mastani.
Whenever you sit in music sittings with Mr. Bansali, everything is live. Everyone is allowed to give an opinion about it, and I think his greatest quality about Mr. Bansali is that he listens to everyone. I mean, at the end of the day, he will make his own decisions, but he's all ears, and I think that's such a beautiful quality to have.
Do you think playing Dhananjay Deshpande, the character that you played in Four More Shots, was easier or came easy to you to say playing Shubhendu from Kala?
Yeah, I mean with Dhananjay, I think it's what people kind of expect of me because they see me the way I present myself. I can kind of walk into the room, and for them, I'm already the character. With Shubhendu Mukherjee, it's more, I did equally connect to it because Shubhendu is more of maybe who I am in my private space, in my private time, not when I'm out in society. So they gave me two different aspects. And actually with Four More Shots and Dhananjay Deshpande, the format, doing a sitcom is, I find that the actor very, very challenging because, there's so much dialogue, you have to be entertaining, you have to be funny at the same time, you have to be a little bit, there are scenes where you have to get a little bit more deep and emotional, which was there with my character, evidently. So it's a tough genre to play, and I think that any actor should definitely try doing a sitcom once in their life, for sure.
Then, although you've been only working from last 5 years and you're sort of an industry kid, how competitive is the world of actors is? And have you experienced the rivalry between actors?
I will say it is competitive for sure, especially when you're kind of trying to break in. I'm sure once you've broken in and you're on the A-list, it is equally competitive. But where I've been for the past 5 years, which is, in a pool of a lot of actors who are auditioning for the same parts, you go to maybe a screening or something and you see 10, 15 other people who are all auditioning for the same parts you've auditioned for. So it's not like, it's not a vicious competition, but there is a know about it. I think everyone knows they're all auditioning for the same parts. But in a way, it's good because we push kind of, without knowing, we push each other to be the best versions we can be. Yeah.
When you work with the actors of your age or with senior actors, do you all sometimes sit and talk and plan to work together again? Does that type of conversation happen?
Not really, to be honest with you. I've worked with, I mean, until now, I've worked with Saif Ali Khan, who's obviously a senior and funny and a great guy. I love him so much. I've worked with Nawazuddin Siddiqui sir as well, who was very, very insightful, also very funny. I've been blessed. All my co-stars have been hilarious. So I've had a great time on set. But in terms of talking about future projects, no. We always kind of bring it back to the current project. Talk about, see, I'm obsessed with films and I'm obsessed with craft and acting. So I bring all conversations always back to the craft for some reason, yeah.
So then, do you think you're a switch on, switch off type of actor, or do you take time to get into the skin of the character?
No, I think I do take time. You know, honestly, it does take me some time. I feel that once the fun and games are kind of done on set, I do take a moment to, you know, recenter myself and bring myself in camera and give the performance that's required, yeah.
Now, having delivered a powerful performance with Kala, when you look back, which has been your career high point and the one which was most difficult to deal with?
High, hopefully, is yet to come. I'll leave that open. Low has been, yeah, I would say after my first film, it was difficult, you know, to get back in the swing of things. Obviously, you have expectations how things would have been after doing a big film, getting praised for your work. But it was a wake up call for me. It was like a call of let's get up and go again. So there was a period where it was very low, and I was thinking that you know, how am I going to do this? But I think the drive and the voice inside my head just pulled me up and said, you know, this is what you really want to do, and this absolutely is, and this is what I'm passionate about. Only you can make that happen for yourself ultimately. So that was quite an empowering time, despite being a downtime as well. Yeah.
So then, who gave on those days, at that time, who was your motivating force, or the one who motivated you? Probably sort of must have given you a pep talk to tell you that, you know, come on, get up and fight again.
Yeah, I will give the credit to my mom, to be honest with you, because I will say that she is someone who has stood by my decision to do this more than anyone in the world. A lot of people have said, don't get into this world, because I was always a very good student in school. I studied mathematics and econometrics in university. I was en route to becoming an investment banker, but I just didn't find it very interesting, to be honest with you. Despite being good, and probably I could have got a job in that, and everyone in my family was, you know, cheering me on, go do that, and that's where, you know, you make the money, and that's in society, whatever it may be. But my mom, when I told her I wanted to get into films and I wanted to, you know, arts is what's calling me, she was very, very supportive, and till date she has been very supportive. So I give a lot of, sometimes she doesn't have to say anything, just knowing that she's there supporting me is enough. That you just need that one other person. Sometimes, you know, yourself is not enough, but that said, a lot of it was self-talk and self-motivation and finding that power from within, yeah.
And finally, is there a film that you think which has changed your life?
The first film that made me feel something and made me feel some sort of emotion and made me very aware of just feeling emotional. I was very young, actually. It was Mr. Bhansali's Khamoshi. Yeah. I was very young when I watched it. I probably didn't know exactly what the plot of what was going on, but I remember crying when watching it as a kid, and I remember feeling a series of things. I can't pinpoint them and name them to you right now, but it just made me feel a lot, you know. And the thing with Khamoshi is one of those films that I could name you 10 other films after that and tell you exactly what they've done and why they've shaped me. But there's a thing about Khamoshi that when I saw it as a child, I haven't gone back and rewatched it because I don't want to lose what I felt at the time. You know, I always want to remember the film for that, and the film for making me, almost bringing this thing inside me, making me aware of these emotions that I have. And it's something maybe which is the basis for everything that happened after that, yeah.
Well, for us, your Kala performance is very moving. Thank you so much for your time. Looking forward to many more performances by you, Rohan. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me here. Thank you. Cheers. Yeah.
Thank you.